John Heilemann is national political columnist for New York Magazine. Mark Halperin is senior political analyst for MSNBC and Time. They collaborated on the book Game Change, which is now out in paper book. Congrats on that, guys. Nice to see you.
Hey, Matt.
I want to talk about Sarah Palin in a second. I want to start with money, though. You're hearing a lot of Democrats out there, even the president, complaining about money that is pouring in from Republican groups into some races across the country. And yet, if you look at the numbers out there, Democrats across the country in congressional races are far outspending their Republican opponents. Why do they keep banging this drum?
In part because they're frustrated. They don't have much to talk about. The president knows the things he's accomplished that he's talked to Jon Stewart about are not popular with the voters. They're trying to rally those Democrats who do care about money, even though, as you suggested, the facts aren't really on their side regarding the overall spending.
You think this is frustration? You're spending all this money and you don't have a lot to show for it in the polls, so we might as well blame them for spending too much?
Yeah, I think that's true, and I also think they're trying to script a narrative for what's likely to be a bad outcome for them on November 2nd, so they can look up and say, you know, we lost largely because of this influx of largely secret money, of foreign money. They're trying to lay an excuse in advance.
When you see the president on The Daily Show, obviously courting young voters, if that group was, for lack of a better expression, fired up and ready to go 2 years ago for Democratic candidates and this president, how would you guys describe their level of enthusiasm and involvement right now?
A lot less than 2 years
Why?
ago. Well, it's not a presidential race. You don't have the same dynamics in an off year. And also, the president was a great brand in 2008. People were fired up and ready to go about him and what he represented.
And has John put his finger on, I mean, not this John, Jon Stewart put his finger on something with this timidity that some young voters have witnessed?
I think that's partly true, and I think there's also kind of a fundamental confusion about who the president is. A lot of young voters and African-American voters, Hispanic voters, thought that he was a progressive champion, and they've seen him govern in a more pragmatic, centrist way.
Generations from now, we will be able to look back and tell our children that this was the moment when we began to provide care for the sick and good jobs for the jobless. This was the moment when the rise of the ocean began to slow and our planet began to heal. This was the moment when we ended the war and secured our nation and restored our image as the last best hope on earth.